a couple of things that we want to fit into the pre-snap notion this week. First of all, I just kind of want your general reaction to the news that we got just 2 hours ago that James Madison, Jacksonville State are both being denied their waiver for bowl eligibility by the NCAA. This really only impacts James Madison because there are not enough 6-6 teams this season. So it is almost guaranteed that James Madison and Jacksonville State will be able to play in a bowl game. But for JMU, they had their sights set on so much more than just playing in a bowl game. They wanted to go to the conference championship, which the Sun Belt presumably would allow them in if the NCAA had granted them this waiver. And they would obviously be the favorites for a New Year's Six bowl game if that waiver were granted. Instead, the NCAA, to nobody's surprise, is out of touch and doesn't care about their student athletes.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people tweeting the old Brian Bosworth picture with the National Communists Against Athletes t-shirt that he had, and it's that same vibe, right? Yeah, JMU had every right to be positioning for possibly a New Year's Six bowl game, and now they're going to end up at best in a Cure Bowl or a First Responders Bowl tier type of game, and that is really, really frustrating if you are a fan of the Dukes, as we're oppressed by a far-off dictator. That's absolutely right. Shout out to my U.S. history kids. They would understand that reference after these last couple weeks. But, yeah, it's just really frustrating. And, James Madison has been one of the most consistent programs in the whole country over the last decade or so. If anybody deserved that waiver, if anybody deserved the NCAA saying, you know what, we're going to cut somebody slack, it's the Dukes, because they've shown it at both levels. They've been the model for the transition, right? Like every other team from now on out that makes the jump from FCS to FBS is going to look at James Madison as the model for how to do that because they did it so successfully.
Garrett, it feels like the case against the NCAA continues to grow. It's just yet another domino that's been tipped over that eventually seems like it results in a coup against the NCAA. Some other governing body taking over with the NIL, with transfer portal. The NCAA clearly has no idea what on earth they're doing. And it's one thing when the industry gets to scramble and try and figure out a solution. It's another thing when they just hold a program back from something that they so clearly deserve.
Right, and there's just about no reason to do this. All they would have to do is just wave a wand and say, okay, yeah, you guys can go because you've had a great season, and you guys have been great the last couple of years since jumping up. And this was a stupid rule in the first place, and we messed this one up, and it's a bygone era, whatever, right? And this would be the perfect time to do that because of how much change is happening in the sport with NIL, with the transfer portal, with conference realignment, with the playoff expanding. This would be a perfect time for the NCAA to say, well, it's new times. We need to change our rules a little bit. And they could backpedal off this one real hard while not looking like they were stupid. But instead, they just decide to double down and triple down and quadruple down on not letting James Madison play in their own conference championship. I know it's not their direct decision, but this is what they're keeping them out of. They're not letting them play in a big time bowl game, not letting them expose their program to something. These kinds of things happen for smaller programs, and it can be like a flash in the pan, right? It can be that as soon as that chemistry's gone in the locker room, as soon as those one or two players graduate, it's not quite the same. This would be a great time for their program to get the exposure that they deserve. But unfortunately, the NCAA doesn't want to back down off of stupid stuff like this. So it's really a shame. And I'm continuously at a loss for words when it comes to how the NCAA wants to run its stuff, right? They don't seem to know what they're doing. All they have to do is be slightly competent. They can't even figure that out.
It feels a little bit like the Simpsons meme, the meme about the old man not wanting to recognize Missouri. It feels a little bit like the NCAA is doing that to the Dukes, and I know that goes away next year. But like seriously, there is no guarantee in the era of NIL and transfer portal. Your success can be here today and gone tomorrow. And the fact that the Dukes, now one of the most consistent programs in the country, like both of you have said, the chances are that they will compete and do very well going forward in the Sun Belt. But you're not guaranteed that. And the fact that, these guys, especially this senior class that's going to go out that has earned a shot at a title, a conference title, and a shot at a New Year's Six Bowl. And all that is preventing them from getting there is, text in an old decision that makes no sense in the first place. It just rubs me the wrong way. And I'm tired of the NCAA. And, honestly, I wish nothing but the downfall for that organization, because they've proven time and time again. We just had the Tez Walker drama the first couple weeks of the season. Every single year, they deny hardworking kids with unfortunate circumstances, whether it's family or personal. They deny them waiver claims left and right. And yet they get up and claim that they're doing this for the betterment of the student athletes and for the game. It's absolute hogwash, and I'm sick of it. And I'm ready to see every single one of them run out of power. So anyway, very, very frustrating note. On that, I'll get off my soapbox, and Trey.
Wow.
Hey, listen, mic drop, put it on YouTube. I'm tired of it. But one organization that won't change to another organization that just decides we can change whenever the heck we want. Please inform the audience about the Big 12 bylaws just changing when it was convenient.
Yeah, there's some absolute shenanigans going on in the Big 12. As we say, yes, the Big 12 officials have no idea how to run a conference, and that has been clear. They did run realignment, so we'll give them that, but the logistics of this are fantastic and really interesting to follow. So going into the year, the Big 12 had some tiebreaker rules, and they essentially said that, like most places, if there's a multi-team tie, if there's a 3 or more team tie, you go to the record amongst those teams played. That makes sense, right? Like we say, Oklahoma State tied with Kansas State and Oklahoma. They beat both of those teams. They get in. Then you read the bylaws, actually, and it says that actually, if all the teams didn't play each other, which Oklahoma didn't play Kansas State, then it doesn't go to head-to-head record. It goes to record against common opponents, which would then put Kansas State in the Big 12 championship 2 seed right now. So today, literally today, as we're recording this on November 15th, they have rewritten the tiebreaker procedures and essentially said, no, it's actually head-to-head record, which in reality does make the most sense. Like I'll give them that. They need to make sure that they take care of that. If Oklahoma State got left out because of a dumb tiebreaker rule when they beat the other teams that they tied against head-to-head, that would be an absolute travesty. But to change this on November 15th, 2 weeks before the Big 12 championship game, that is not how you run an organization. Like, they deserve all the clowning that they are getting on social media. Kansas State fans are rightfully very upset. They thought they were playing by a certain set of rules that would get them to the conference championship game in back-to-back years, and those rules got changed right underneath them. And look, yes, win the game on the field, Kansas State. You should have beaten a very down at that point Oklahoma State team on a weird Friday night in Stillwater. That was a game that I remember texting you guys about and saying, like, Kansas State is just trying to find is any way possible to lose this game and then pull it out at the last second. They couldn't do it. But just changing these rules just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. You can really see why, there's a gap between the 2 premier conferences in the league, in the SEC and the Big Ten, and how the rest of them are being run. And I think my hot take about all this is that within 5 years, we're going to ditch this wild, wild west scheduling model in college conferences that we're leaning towards now. We're going to be right back in divisions because it just makes way too much room for error, way too much room for these weird tiebreakers. And when there's a college football playoff spot on the line, an automatic berth in the college football playoff by winning the conference championship, it really, really matters to get this right. So I think we're going to ditch this wide open scheduling model and go back to divisions within 5 years.
Now, listen, I just went after the NCAA, right? Got on a soapbox. I'm not about to get on another one, but the timing is just malpractice. I think it's the Big 12 once again fumbling over the simplest things. This has not been a well-run conference. And, I feel like this is kind of Brett Yormark's first fumble since he's taken over. But in the era of sports betting, this seems like a massive misstep because you could very easily have people come after the Big 12 saying, hey, listen, someone is trying to hedge their bets. Someone is trying to cover for, something that just isn't going their way. The Big 12's put themselves in a position where they can't defend that. And so I'm certainly not going to make that argument. I think that would be an irresponsible argument to make. But the point is, they've opened themselves up to that line of questioning. And there's just no way the Big 12 could credibly defend against that because, yes, this move makes all the sense in the world. The problem is why didn't you change this in the preseason? You should have taken care of your business, your administrative business before the season gets done. You got lazy, you forgot about it, and now you are between a rock and a hard place, I think, administratively. It's just another bad look for a conference that is losing Texas and Oklahoma this offseason.
Gracious, how about